Meu Deus, onde é o caminho, homem? Minha Nossa Senhora.
Charles Oliveira is treating this Max Holloway rematch like someone just disrespected his entire bloodline. Forget everything you think you know about friendly rematches or settling old scores with handshakes afterward. This is personal, and the training footage coming out of his camp is absolutely terrifying. We're talking about a man who's moving with the kind of urgency you see when someone's career depends on it. Because honestly, it might. This isn't some nostalgic trip down memory lane for Bronx. He's preparing to face a completely different version of Max Holloway, and he knows that the Charles Oliveira who lost their first encounter doesn't exist anymore. The fire in his eyes during these training sessions is telling a story that goes way deeper than just wanting to win a fight. He's out to prove that everything people thought they knew about him was wrong.
He's not the most dominant guy. If you watch him, he gets in bad positions and guys hurt him, but he's long and lanky, and he can use his feet like hands and tie you up and do these things with his big old long limbs. And obviously he got finished by Islam, but that's his only loss. Well, Armin, but that was a hug fest.
Here's what Joe Rogan figured out that most people completely missed about Oliveira's so-called late career surge. Everyone's acting like this guy just magically got good in his 30s, but Rogan's breaking down the real timeline, and it's wild. Picture this. Charles Oliveira got thrown into the UFC Shark Tank as a literal teenager. Not some seasoned veteran, not some guy who worked his way up through regional promotions. A kid. Surrounded by the most elite fighters on the planet, getting his face rearranged by legends while most people his age were worried about college applications. Rogan's point is crucial here. When you're learning at that level of competition from day one, the development process takes years to fully mature. The raw talent was always there, but it took until his late 20s for everything to click. And once it did, game over. The most dangerous contenders in the sport have found it almost impossible to survive him, because when Oliveira gets even a sliver of control, what happens next is nothing short of surgical brutality.
Was like he was learning and developing and growing as an elite in an elite organization. How old is he? 32.
Oh, okay, wow.
32. So, see, he's been around a long-ass time. But he came into his own over the last few years, which kind of makes sense. Like, he figured it out somewhere around 27, 28. But he comes, look, these guys are elite, right? They come close to beating him, but he finds a way to beat them. And the way he does it is so final. The way he beat Poirier, man, that choke was so fucking good. It was so good.
Yeah.
And that's the same way the world found out about him was Efrain Escudero, who won the Ultimate Fighter. So, who was a very good fighter himself. He fought Oliveira, and Oliveira took his back same way, standing up, and choked him out.
But here's where Rogan gets really excited about what makes Oliveira absolutely terrifying. It's not just that he's good at submissions, it's the speed and precision that's borderline inhuman. Rogan keeps coming back to this one point because he's genuinely amazed by how quickly Oliveira can spot an opening and capitalize on it. We're not talking about flashy moves or creative positions. This is pure efficiency at its most deadly. Arm bars and triangles getting locked in so fast that opponents don't even have time to register the danger before they're already tapping or going to sleep. Think about how insane that is. These are elite UFC fighters with world-class defensive skills, and Oliveira is catching them like they're white belts at a local gym. That's how he's managed to rack up a record-breaking submission count against the absolute best fighters on the planet. When you witness that kind of mastery in real time, you understand why even the toughest guys in the division are terrified of ending up on the ground with him.
Crisp, though. When he gets those moments, those openings, just crisp.
Yep. Right away.
Yeah, he finds those arm bars and triangles, and he cinches submissions up so quick.
Yeah.
So quick. One of the quickest guys. I mean, does he have the most submissions in the history of the sport?
Yeah.
Like 20.
They're so quick, man. The technique is so smooth.
How do you have 20 submissions? How do you submit 20 of the most dangerous people in the world?
The dude's a beast. I remember his first submission win in the UFC with Efrain.
And get this, Oliveira's mindset heading into this rematch is absolutely fascinating. He doesn't see himself as desperate or diminished in any way. Instead, he views every setback, every loss, every moment of adversity as something that sharpened him into a more complete fighter. His focus isn't scattered across multiple potential opponents or future title shots. Charles beating Max Holloway isn't just another fight on his resume, it's both the starting point and the finish line of his immediate goals. There's something almost zen-like about his approach. He's not forcing narratives or demanding title shots. His conviction is simple: take care of this business first and everything else will fall into place naturally. Beat someone like Max Holloway convincingly and the title opportunities come to you. The respect comes to you. The big money fights come to you. It's a level of patience and strategic thinking that shows just how much he's matured as both a fighter and a competitor.
Here, do you think we need to start talking about you as a title contender once more?
E depois da tua luta contra o William, muita gente te chegou a desconsiderar, te tirou do páreo, mas você foi lá. Uma grande vitória no Rio de Janeiro, tremenda vitória contra o Matheus Gamrot. Uma vitória contra o Max Holloway. Você acha que o pessoal começa a te ver de novo no páreo para ser de campeão?
Como eu sempre venho falando, o Leão Ferido ainda continua sendo Leão, ainda estou no jogo, nada mudou. Eu acabei de vir uma grande vitória e com certeza eu sempre foco na minha próxima luta. O foco total agora é Max Holloway e aí, se Deus abençoar e for da vontade dele eu passar, com certeza, por que não ser o próximo do título?
As I said, a wounded lion is still a lion. All I'm focused on is on a win. I'm focused on the next fight and to win. All I want now is to fight Max Holloway and get a fight. And if God willing, if that's his wish, I'm gonna get a shot at the title after getting him.
Now here's something that caught everyone off guard. Islam Makhachev, one of the most dominant champions in UFC history, has basically offered Oliveira the perfect blueprint for reaching the next level. And he's doing it with genuine respect, not as some backhanded compliment. Makhachev speaks incredibly highly of Oliveira's striking and submission skills, but he's identified the one area where Charles could become truly unstoppable elite-level wrestling. From Islam's perspective, this isn't a challenge or a warning shot. It's a genuine invitation from one elite fighter to another. Think about what that means. The lightweight champion is essentially saying that Oliveira is already so skilled that just adding one more dimension to his game would make him nearly unbeatable. That's not something you say about just anyone. Makhachev sees Charles as someone worth investing in, worth helping evolve, not someone to dismiss or overlook. Coming from a guy who's dominated everyone he's faced, that's about as high praise as you can get in this sport.
Good guy. If I can help him one day, he can join with us to the camp, come to Dagestan. He have very good striking, high level grappling. We can help him with the wrestling.
He faces Kobe. What's your...
I think Charles can finish him.
Max Holloway's approach to this rematch is completely different, and honestly, it's refreshing. He's not carrying any bitterness or resentment from their first encounter. Instead, he sees this as an intriguing puzzle that needs solving. Openly admits that their first fight ended without any real clarity or definitive conclusion, and he views this rematch as the perfect opportunity to let the fight play out to its natural end. What's remarkable is the excitement in his voice when he talks about facing Oliveira. This isn't grudge match energy, it's the enthusiasm of a true competitor who gets fired up about testing himself against elite opposition. Holloway genuinely views Charles as one of the pillars of the sport, and he's eager to step into the cage with him under better circumstances. For Max, this isn't about settling old scores or proving past results were flukes. It's about two elite fighters finally getting the chance to show who's better when everything goes according to plan.
And what is the unfinished business for you? Because you obviously were the winner of the first fight, even though it ended strangely.
I mean, you know, he had his injury, so at the end of the day, we get to figure out how it goes come March 7th. I'm just excited, man. He's a legend of the sport. He deserves this moment, and I can't wait to go out there and give it to him.
And listen to how Holloway handles the speculation about their first fight. When people bring up rumors that Oliveira might have been injured during their initial encounter, Max keeps his response completely straightforward. He states clearly that from everything he's seen and read, there's no concrete evidence to suggest anything was wrong with Charles. But here's what's brilliant about Holloway's approach. He's not interested in speculation or what-ifs. His entire focus is on the fight itself. This massive rematch where the only thing that matters is what actually happens inside that cage. He's treating their next clash as completely fresh, a decisive encounter that will finally bring closure to any lingering questions. Every word he speaks signals that his mindset is locked in on proving himself definitively, not relitigating the past or making excuses for previous results.
Just get straight to the point. Was he injured or not?
Who?
Charles, in your first fight. That's the big rumor, right?
I don't know. There's I believe there's one of the MMA guys did a follow-up with him, and I swear, you know, call me crazy, but I swear in the write-up it said nothing was wrong. So that's what I'm going off of.
Do you think maybe, listen, I'm being serious, do you think maybe Charles did sort of not conjure up an injury to save face in that fight, but do you think maybe he wasn't as injured as he's saying? What is your takeaway from him saying there's an injury and that's why the fight ended?
I mean, I think he had an injury for sure in that area. I think it might have felt like he re-injured it in the moment, you know, and, you know, he's just taking precautions, but it is what it is, you know. The beautiful thing, that thing happened ages ago. I'm so over it, bro. It is what it is, and we get to find out here on the 9th Island, March 7th, for the BMF title, so.
Here's where Holloway shows his fight IQ. He readily acknowledges that both he and Oliveira have evolved significantly since their first meeting, but he makes a crucial distinction about how that growth is perceived. Yes, Charles has polished his striking and added new layers to his game, but Holloway frames this evolution as being more visible to casual observers rather than necessarily greater than his own improvements. From a fan's perspective, Oliveira's growth might look more dramatic because his improvements are flashier and easier to quantify. Meanwhile, Holloway has been quietly building and refining his skills away from the spotlight. The implication is clear. While everyone's been marveling at Oliveira's transformation, Max has been doing his own work behind the scenes. Now he's ready to show that his evolution has been just as significant, even if it hasn't generated the same headlines or highlight reels.
This is one of those fights where like everyone's going to talk about the first fight and stuff like that, but it did, as you said, happen so long ago. You two are completely different, especially I feel like Charles is very different from what he was back then. When you look at your game and how it's evolved and his game and how it's evolved, who do you think's added more to your repertoires?
I mean, I don't know. You know, Charles is always known as a jiu-jitsu guy, and he still being that jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, he did get his striking better. Overall, I would probably have to say that people would probably think Charles probably grew more just because he's actually showing his striking now versus I'm not going out there submitting people. So to the naked eye, to the regular fan, I'm guaranteed they're going to say, no, hey, Charles got way better. You know, look at his striking. You're just striking all the time. So.
Justin Gaethje's perspective on this matchup is absolutely brutal in its honesty. When he talks about how dangerous Max Holloway is, he doesn't hold anything back. Reflecting on their past encounter, Gaethje openly admits that taking a knockout as decisive as the one Holloway delivered wouldn't have been just another loss. It would have been career-defining, potentially altering his entire trajectory in the sport. And because of that understanding, he's completely unwilling to risk going through that experience again. This isn't just respect for Holloway's skills. It's a clear measure of self-preservation from one of the toughest guys in the division. Think about what that means. Justin Gaethje, who's never backed down from anyone, who's built his reputation on being willing to trade leather with killers, is essentially saying that facing prime Max Holloway is too dangerous to risk. That's a testament to just how much devastating power and precision Max carries in his hands.
Doesn't have to be from a negative,
not at all,
sense, and it wasn't. It was just the truth. Like if I get knocked out again, like Max Holloway knocked me out, I would be done. Like I would not allow myself to risk being in that position again, and that's the truth. But that does not make me 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like that is how I fight. That is more pressure, and luckily pressure makes me better.
Yeah.
The MMA guru offers a compelling breakdown of why Charles Oliveira might have a decisive advantage if this fight hits the ground, and his analysis is spot on. He's particularly impressed with the evolution of Charles's takedown game, noting how much more technical and forceful it's become compared to his earlier fights. Gone are the days of failed, predictable takedown attempts. Now Oliveira is showcasing a sophisticated approach, using grips on the hips and clever setups to not only control but powerfully lift opponents. He's turning what used to be low-percentage throws and trips into genuinely effective takedowns. According to Guru, This newly added dimension could prove decisive against Holloway, giving Bronx a real shot at taking the fight to the mat early and hunting for a submission. The key insight here is that Oliveira isn't just relying on his ground game anymore. He's developed the wrestling skills to actually get fights to the ground consistently.
How does Max versus Charles go? I'll go Oliveira, chat. Who else is very impressed with his takedown entries that he's added to his game? Even when he went for it on Ilya and went for the 50-50 throw, I was like, oh my god, dude, he's strong in this double under position. He's never been like that before. He always used to shoot in and try and get the back from it and fail to take down. Like, he was never picking up Gaethje and dunking him or getting his hands behind the arse of Poirier and getting his hands connected and dunking him down. It was very throw and trip oriented, but he's now like getting in on the hips. Hands connected, picking him up. Picking up Gamrot like that, even though Gamrot balanced and stayed in a good position and then eventually gave up his back anyway. His entries are a lot better. So I think he would get...
But here's Guru's boldest prediction, and it's fascinating. He believes Max Holloway simply won't be able to put Charles Oliveira away early, especially not in the first round. Instead, he highlights how Oliveira's improved offensive wrestling could become a genuine threat that Holloway has to respect. By combining precise timing with relentless pressure, Charles could capitalize on any openings that Max presents and use his refined technique to bring the fight to the mat. If Holloway manages to secure that early control, that initial ground dominance could set the tone for the entire fight. Think about the psychological impact of that. Oliveira used to being the one applying pressure and controlling the pace. If Oliveira can flip that script early and make Max worry about takedowns, it changes everything about how this fight unfolds.
Not going to drop him in the first round. I don't think, anyway. I don't know. I think he'll actually be able to get takedowns because his offensive wrestling has massively improved. And watching Ilya shooting on the hips of Holloway, pick him up and dunk him on the ground like that in round one, with Oliveira's pressure earlier, I can see that well.
The analysts at Bedtime MMA are calling this an incredibly exciting rematch, and their breakdown of what comes next is really interesting. While they lean slightly toward Holloway as the likely winner, they point out something crucial. A win for Max here doesn't automatically guarantee him a title shot. In fact, if Holloway takes the victory, his next fight could be something unexpected, possibly even a co-main event for the BMF belt later in the year. Meanwhile, a win for Oliveira might land him against someone like Paddy Pimblett next, which would be a completely different type of challenge. What's fascinating about their analysis is how it shows that both fighters are in slightly different positions despite being elite contenders. Holloway's looking to stay active and relevant while waiting for his title opportunity, while Oliveira's trying to work his way back into championship contention. Regardless of who wins, this fight will definitively show how much both men have grown and evolved since their first encounter.
This is a sick matchup. I think both of these guys have improved so much from when they first fought. I do think Max Holloway is going to win this, but it's weird because whoever wins this, I really don't see them getting a title shot. Like, I think if Max wins, his next fight will probably be some weird shit like BSD for the BMF belt as a co-main event later in the year. If Charles wins this, I think he's still going to get Paddy Pimblett regardless of if he...
James Lynch brings up something that really puts this fight in perspective when he talks about missed opportunities in UFC history. He admits he would have loved to see Oliveira step in to face Holloway instead of waiting around for a title shot that might take forever to materialize. But now, the spotlight has landed on this Oliveira rematch, which Lynch frames as a high-stakes battle between two legends who never got to properly settle their business. He revisits their initial encounter on the UFC Saskatoon card, noting that an injury robbed fans of what could have been a true contest. That incomplete feeling from their first fight perfectly sets up this rematch as something that promises a definitive outcome this time around. There's something poetic about two elite fighters getting a second chance to show what they're really capable of when everything goes according to plan.
Thing. I would like to see Arman Tsarukyan fight Max Holloway only because I think it's going to be a while before Arman fights, and I know people will say he deserves the title shot, but we know what's happening right now. It's going to be Gaethje, it's going to be Paddy for the interim title. Where does Arman fit into this? I don't know, but I don't want to see Arman on the shelf waiting around to get an opportunity. I would have rather seen him fight Max Holloway, but nonetheless, this is a very good fight. Rematch, actually. If you remember, their first fight happened a long time ago. It was at the UFC Saskatchewan card. And it's funny because I don't think the UFC's been back to Saskatchewan since then. That fight, the first fight, was a neck and shoulder injury. You could probably find it somewhere on YouTube, but it like really wasn't a fight. And this was a card too where this was sort of like the marquee fight on.
Kenny Florian offers perhaps the sharpest analysis of why Charles Oliveira has quietly become an even bigger threat than most people realize. Coming off his dominant performance against someone as skilled as Mateusz Gamrot, Oliveira's growth is impossible to ignore. Florian points out that beyond his legendary grappling, Charles's pressure and increasingly sharp striking are incredibly underrated weapons. His forward-moving, aggressive style has this ability to force mistakes from opponents, even elite-level strikers who rarely falter under pressure. While Kenny admits that someone like Ilia Topuria presents unique challenges as a counter-striker, he emphasizes that Oliveira's approach, constant aggression combined with incredible precision, can overwhelm fighters who make the mistake of underestimating how complete he's become. The key insight is that Oliveira isn't just a submission specialist anymore. He's evolved into a complete mixed martial artist who can hurt you anywhere the fight goes.
Oliveira, similar to Max Holloway's, coming off a performance that I feel like makes people realize, like, hold up a minute, because Charles just seems so much better than Gamrot, who's probably known as the best freestyle wrestler in the lightweight division before that fight. You know, oh, dude, I don't know, man. I know. Like, they kept talking about, and I was one of them, but the reason I picked Charles is because I did feel like Charles' overwhelming presence is going to be too much. Because something people sleep on is Charles Oliveira's pressure and striking on the feet. It's not that Charles can't strike, guys. I gotta, like, preface something. Ilia Topuria is a special type of striker. As in, like, Ilia Topuria will counter you to an oblivion if you just walk forward like an imbecile. No offense to Charles, but that's kind of Charles' fight style. Charles is going to walk.
So here's where we stand with this absolute blockbuster of a rematch. You've got Charles Oliveira, who's treating this like the most important fight of his career, facing off against Max Holloway, who's approaching it with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what he brings to the table. Both fighters have evolved significantly since their first encounter, both have something major to prove, and both are at stages in their careers where a loss could be devastating. This isn't just about settling old business, it's about determining who belongs in the title conversation and who needs to go back to the drawing board. The stakes couldn't be higher, and honestly, I think we're about to witness something special when these two legends step back into the cage. So what do you think happens when Bronx and Blessed finally get their definitive answer? Drop your predictions in the comments below, tell me who you think walks away with the victory, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you never miss our in-depth fight breakdowns and analysis. This is going to be one hell of a fight, and I can't wait to break it down with you afterward. The psychological warfare between these two has been absolutely fascinating to watch unfold. Oliveira's been dropping hints in interviews that he's discovered something specific about Holloway's game, some kind of weakness or pattern that he's planning to exploit. And Max, he's responding with this almost eerie calmness, like he's already visualized exactly how this fight plays out. What's wild is that both men seem genuinely confident they've cracked the code on their opponent. That level of mutual respect mixed with quiet confidence usually produces absolute fireworks inside the octagon. What most people don't realize is how much the landscape of lightweight has shifted since these two first fought. Back then, both were hungry contenders trying to make their mark. Now, they're established legends with completely different pressures and expectations. Oliveira's dealing with the weight of being a former champion who needs to prove he still belongs at the top. Holloway's carrying the burden of being one of the greatest featherweights ever who's trying to cement his legacy at 155. That psychological dynamic completely changes how they'll approach this rematch. Neither man can afford to lose, but they're fighting different battles in their heads. Here's something that's been flying under the radar. Both fighters have been studying tape obsessively, but they're focusing on completely different aspects of their previous encounter. Oliveira's team has been breaking down every moment where Holloway showed even the slightest defensive vulnerability. Meanwhile, Holloway's camp has been analyzing Charles's footwork and head movement patterns, looking for openings to land that fight-ending shot. It's like watching two chess masters preparing for a rematch, except instead of moving pieces, they're planning to throw devastating combinations and hunt for submissions. The betting odds have been all over the place for this one, and honestly, that tells you everything you need to know about how evenly matched these guys are. 1 week Holloway's the favorite, The next week it's swinging back to Oliveira. The uncertainty isn't because people don't understand these fighters, it's because they understand them too well. Both men have the tools to finish this fight spectacularly, and both have shown they can adapt and overcome adversity. When the best analysts in the sport can't agree on a clear favorite, you know you're looking at something truly special. But here's what I think is going to determine the outcome. Whoever imposes their preferred pace first is going to control this entire fight. If Holloway can keep this on the feet and turn it into a striking battle, his volume and precision could overwhelm even Oliveira's improved boxing. But if Charles can make this messy, dirty, and unpredictable, if he can get those takedowns and force Max to fight off his back, then we're looking at a completely different contest. The first 5 minutes of this fight are going to be absolutely crucial, because neither man wants to spend the rest of the night fighting on their opponent's terms.